Hello and welcome to Cup of Tea's 3-Minute Reviews. And the time it takes you to brew a cup of tea, we'll cover an entire movie. My name is Tim, and I'm joined as always by Michael.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Today's movie is a spooky movie.
Ooh.
We are continuing our Horror Month movie marathon. Every year during the month of October, I watch a different scary movie every day. I love this genre. I think it's really valuable and really interesting and really entertaining. Michael, how do you feel about horror films?
With what we watched today, I've now watched 5 horror movies, and I'm not quite sure I'm ready to get into this genre.
Today's movie is a seminal classic. It's a movie that redefined the horror genre. It's from 1968, and it is Night of the Living Dead. It is an independent horror film. It was famously introduced the world to the modern concept of the zombie. Michael, please give us your hot take.
Tim, this movie was not my cup of tea. It had a couple moments where the momentum just really dropped out for me, but it was an incredible historical piece, and I'm really glad I watched it. What about you?
This movie was my cup of tea. I found it really entertaining, really engaging. I found the filmmaking really unique and really interesting, and I really love the creativity on display.
So, Tim, give everybody a rundown. What's this thing about?
7 people take refuge in an abandoned farmhouse during a night of terror as the recently deceased return from the dead to feast upon the living. Michael, you say this wasn't your cup of tea? Please give us a few reasons why.
Tim, there was no doubt while I was watching this that I was watching a historical piece. You know, the origins of the zombie genre. It was incredibly interesting for that reason, but there was a lot of slow moments in this movie where I felt I just got pulled out in the wrong ways, and in the end that just killed it just a little bit too much for it to be my cup of tea. But what about you? I mean, you said you really liked this piece. What did you love about it?
Like I said in my intro, the creativity. I mean, this movie was made for nothing. It's a zero-budget movie. It was made in a really interesting time within the independent film movement. I mean, this is a contemporary of movies like Easy Rider, to put it in a historical context. The filmmaking on display is fascinating. The camera angles and the shot choices are really cool. They did a lot with very little, especially in the camera angles and the lighting, but also within the story itself. I mean, he created zombies out of nothing.
That's crazy. Like, this guy did all the things that we've now come to recognize in the zombie genre. Like, the idea that if you hit them in the head, they die, and that if they bite you, you're going to come back to life. Like, this didn't exist before this movie. So in that way, this movie was very cool to watch and was the thing I loved most about it. I really felt like I got to understand the roots of this genre in a way more intimate way than I did before. And to be fair, the horror genre, I think, in my limited 5-movie experience, does a better job than like a lot of modern action movies of keeping the focus very narrow. Yeah. But I felt like when we were in the house, we were with our people, it was really compelling, and I really liked that about this movie. That really added to my enjoyment. The problem was there were a lot of times we weren't in the house, and for me that was one of the detractors. I'm going to shift into the negative here, Tim, and just say there were so many moments in this movie that pulled me out. And so many is maybe a little exaggerative. Like, there were enough moments, though, that pulled me out. We were with police officers. We were with newscasters. We just weren't with our heroes, and because of that, I felt like I wanted to get back there, you know? I wanted to get into the house and see how they were doing and how they were surviving. So I think they did a nice job telling a simple plot, but I wish we had spent more time with our heroes in this piece.
Yeah, my problem with the pacing is that when they're doing stuff, when they're acting to solve the problem, this movie is an A+. As soon as they start talking, that's when the movie really suffers, because the dialogue is not great and the acting is really subpar from a lot of these people. The main actor, fantastic. He does a good job. He's very naturalistic in his performance, but some of these supporting characters, they need an extra take because it's a little rough and it's a little awkward.
100%. Those are the scenes that I struggled with the most, is when our supporting characters were delivering lines and it just wasn't landing, and I was kind of glad when they got eaten, if I'm being honest, because then we didn't have to hear them talk anymore.
Oh my goodness. Michael, when should somebody watch the film?
Tim, as a historical piece, this was incredible. If you want to understand The Walking Dead and some of these modern zombie movies, this is the piece to do that. You know, for me, I didn't think it was a standalone entertaining piece enough that I would recommend, but everyone should at least watch it once for the historical value. What about you?
I think there's a lot of entertainment value to be derived from this movie. I think that if you get some friends together on Halloween night and you want to put on a movie, throw this one on. It's free to watch. And that's actually a fascinating story. They accidentally forgot to include the copyright when they initially premiered this movie.
Oops.
Big oops, because that meant that the movie was free to watch. It entered the public domain as soon as it was premiered, and this movie is free to watch. So you can watch it on YouTube, you can watch it anywhere you want. It's totally free to watch. It's totally free to use. So if you wanted to re-edit this movie or record your own commentary track for this movie, you can. It's a fascinating story. But anyway, this is an interesting movie to watch. It redefined the genre, and I think there's a lot of enjoyment to be derived from it as a movie and as an historical piece. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Cup of Tea's Spooky Reviews.